After 6 months of varieties of abdominal symptoms, I discovered that I had a tumor on the tail of the pancreas about the second week in March of 2010. And I immediately was scheduled for surgery and had surgery at Swedish Hospital in Seattle. And that was on St. Patrick's Day, 2010. They discovered when they removed the tail of the pancreas that the tumor that was there was an aggressive pancreatic cancer. And they proceeded to let me know that I would probably be living about 7 to 12 months at that point. I talked to the surgeon, I talked to an oncologist at Swedish Hospital. I went home from the hospital in a kind of a state of shock, just getting blown away. I'm a healthy guy, I've exercised my whole life, I've had a decent diet, and for me at that age of about 62 years old to come down with this dreaded disease, it took me probably about 3 months to come to terms with the reality of it and to adjust to the idea that I'm going to be living with this for what seemed to be a brief period of time. So I came to Dr. Chen after having these gloomy prognoses from 2 different hospitals. And when we sat down together, I was actually scheduled to start treatment the very next day. After going through my records and looking at all of the medical history and the surgery, pathology report, he said to me, "We can do better than the hospital prognosis." And that's what I needed. I needed somebody to say, "Hey, you know, you're not dead yet, and matter of fact, you still got a reason to believe that you can live well. And you know, we're going to work with you on that and bring to bear a whole range of interventions." And so I left Dr. Chen after that first meeting, and I immediately scheduled to see him the very next day to start a chemo combination which went beyond what the hospitals were going to do. And so I was doing a combination at the beginning of docetaxel and gemcitabine, along with the other components of treatment. And that was very effective in bringing my tumor marker number, my CA19-9, down. And then he followed that up after about 12 weeks with another 4 chemo combination. And then I was on that 2 or 3 rounds, and then another chemo combination after that, FOLFIRINOX, and then another chemo combination after that, which was Abraxane and gemcitabine. And then in the last year, a little over a year now, I've been taking a particular pill called Cytoxin with the 3 interferon shots every week, and infusion of vitamin C, supplements every day, acupuncture every week, and great support from varieties of people, an active spiritual life, good exercise. And I know that the combination is really, really important for how I feel. I basically, like I said, have been able to do everything in my life. I'm very active, and I credit Dr. Chen and that whole philosophy that he has with the reason why I'm still here. The metronomic dosing philosophy is not something that's being promoted in standard of care circles in the area. What it really meant for me was that I could take as much chemo as what would typically be prescribed in a hospital setting but I would take it in a way so that it's less toxic to my body over the period of 1 month. So the dosage is less than a normal dose, and my body is not overloaded with toxins, so I don't have to take a break after, say, 3 weeks of chemo infusions and give my body a chance to rest from all of that toxicity. The problem with that approach, 3 weeks infusions and then a week off, which is standard of care for my disease, is that during that week off, the cancer has a chance to rejuvenate. And so the way I've done it is I've taken less of a dosage, a metronomic strategy, and I don't take any time off because my body's able to handle the chemo better with that approach. And in the end of a month, I'm still taking essentially the same amount of chemo as I would take if I were in an institutional setting, but tolerating it much better. And this is particularly, I think, important when we combine chemos together. Metronomic dosing allows for even chemo combinations to be more easily assimilated by the body. So I'm a big believer in that metronomic approach. Matter of fact, I would even say without that metronomic approach, I don't know that I'd be here today. And as far as the way that works out with the other interventions, Dr. Riley, my naturopath, who's an expert in naturopathic treatment with oncology, has done a great job in giving me the necessary supplements and ingredients that I take every day that have allowed my immune system to be stronger than I think typically would be the case. So strong that in 6 years I've had 2 colds, and neither of those colds lasted very long. I have been less sick than everybody in my family, even though I've been on chemo for 6 years, off and on again, but more on than off. So the fact that my immune system has been addressed with naturopathic interventions, vitamin C infusions, interferon shots in the arm, all strengthening that immune process, that's, again, a big reason why I'm here today. I really have had the philosophy that I'm not a cancer patient per se. I'm a person that has cancer. I get a blood test every other week. It tells me whether my interventions are keeping the cancer at bay. So far, they are. That could change at any point. I think one of the paradoxes that are important when you're in this kind of a position that I'm in with this disease is that it actually is more beneficial to have come to terms with dying. People who are not afraid to die and who have accepted their mortality and who can live with a transcendent hope do better in their treatment and typically live longer than people that are afraid to die and who are doing everything they can to sort of fight it in a kind of adversarial way. My approach is I accept that I have the disease, I accept that I'm going to die, I'm not afraid of dying, and at the same time I treasure the life I have, so I'm doing everything I can to protect that life, to cultivate that life for as long as I have to live. There are certain benefits to having cancer. One of the benefits is that you pay attention to what you have. Not so much about what you don't have, but how am I going to live with what I do have? How am I going to use what I have every day in the most meaningful, significant way? And so I've been benefited because I've had this disease for 6 years. It's allowed me to think about life, I think, in a more complete way at times, in a more insightful way at times. I'm a better person today because of that intrinsic faith and hope that I have than I was before I got the disease. And I'm grateful for that. And it does help a bunch, again, that I'm not afraid to die. I believe in resurrection faith. And I believe that because of that, I will die well. Dr. Chen, again, is a big asset in that direction. He totally respects my spirituality, supports that, and has his own way of being spiritual. So that's another thing that I share with him.